as we continue the conversation this particular morning, taking stock of what the year has been and also as far as what the year has been as far as leadership and governance of this particular country is concerned, putting a special focus on President William Ruto. Now, listen, there's quite a lot that has been happening, and I want us to, take a look at what you're waking up to as far as the newspapers are concerned. And I believe we start with the People Daily, which now says, let me just take that. Yes, SHA drops the 104 billion shillings Adani tech system. This is a story on the People Daily, top story there. And of course, another story that is also making headlines is anti-femicide demos, of course, with women yesterday taking to the streets to protest against the killings that have been rampant in the country, and calling the government to take action on the perpetrators. A story on page 14 of the People Daily. Another story making headlines on this particular newspaper is APRO greets a Sakaja scheme to lease Wangari's icon Uhuru Park. That is a story on page 5 of the People Daily. Another story is that 30 billion shillings for Thwake Dam could go down the drain. A story on the People Daily, of course, on page 2 of that particular newspaper. Let us take a look at what you're waking up to as far as the Standard is concerned. And the Standard is reporting Ruto and Uhuru talks jolt politics. Now, a surprise meeting between President Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, two bigwigs with a long history together, sends politics into a spin and raises questions on a shape of a broad-based government, political fate of Mount Kenya and Azimio's future. That's a story on page 6 and 7 of this Standard. Another story making headlines on that particular newspaper is APRO over new administrative units as MPs sues. That's a story on page 9. And also, we also have stop killing our girls and women, protesters demand. That is a story also making headlines on the Standard newspaper. Surviving 2003 plane crash from celebrations to mourning. That's also a story that has been given priority on that particular newspaper on the Standard. And of course, that is the book serialization part 4 of the Martha Karua book. Now, she says in the 2003, the angel of death swooped on Martha Karua and her colleagues as they took to the skies after Moody Awori's Busia homecoming. The crash killed her cabinet colleague Ahmed Halif and 2 pilots. Her friend Wanjiku Kihoro remained in a coma for years before succumbing to injuries. Of course, you can grab that particular newspaper and get to read that. Let's take a look at what the Nation is saying as far as news is concerned. And Adani linked SHA hospital system fails. Now, the Safaricom-led consortium has signed up a 4th partner to provide a portal to process claims by private health facilities to potentially costly deal crafted without taxpayers' knowledge after the original supplier of the software failed to deliver on time. That is a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Patni from Golden Bag scandal to U.S. gold scam watch list. Now, the U.S. and U.K. have placed sanctions on Kamlesh Patni. That is a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Those are stories making headlines, of course, of that particular newspaper. And also, Kenyans ran into trouble with the police in march against GBV. That's also a story that is making headlines on our dailies this particular morning. My guest in studio at the moment is Stephen Mokesi. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. You woke up well?
Very well.
Didn't get traffic?
No traffic.
Good morning.
No traffic at all.
All right. I want us to start from here, taking a look at what you're waking up to on the newspapers. But general feeling of the state of the nation, give me that.
Well, I'm like every other Kenyan. Today we've woken up end of the year. Few days till 31st of December, and there's really no hope for a lot of Kenyans going into the new year of 2025. Okay. There was a sliver of hope in the June of this year when for the first time we saw actions by both the citizenry and the presidency to try and come together in terms of an understanding of what's best for this republic. And by this I mean there was an acrimony of a particular legislation that would have continued to even hamper further the economic realities of Kenyans.
Okay.
So my expectation was, after the withdrawal of the finance bill, this country would have gone through a moment of healing and conversation and trying to figure out what is the best way to ensure that whatever Mwananchi wants is listened to, it is acted upon, and it's delivered.
Okay.
However, what I've seen from what we've had for the last 4, 5, 6 months has been just a game of political cards. It's either one card being thrown here, a joker there. We are bringing people from ODM. We are saying that there is no problem in Kenya. There are fools, there are peppers. There are so many things going on in this country that do not seem to look like we are advancing as a people in terms of trying to understand what's fundamentally important. And what's fundamentally important is that Mwananchi feels that the government that they put in place, that the government that they hold as a people is actually working for them. And you can't just say that the government is working by waking up in the morning and throwing numbers at Mwananchi and saying, oh, price of unga has gone down. I mean, price of unga, yes, could have gone down. But there's a lot more that Kenyans are undergoing that is not making sense for them. So price of IDs, things that don't make sense.
Okay. So the state of the nation, according to you, then it's not a good one, right?
No, the state of the nation is that we are not a hopeful nation. We are a nation that's waiting for a change. We are not a nation that is sitting down saying that we are moving in a positive direction. Okay. Many Kenyans can tell you with their eyes closed that they do not feel that this country is headed in the right direction. And you don't need Mwakesi to tell you that that's what Kenyans are feeling, and we can only just be sounding boards about how Kenyans are feeling about the state of the nation today. Good.
Now, before I engage Nudin Kagai, let's take a look at what you're waking up to. The newspapers are reporting different topics, and one of the major headlines, I believe, is the issue to do with the cancellation of the Adani Shah deal that involved a payroll, that is the company that was contracted to actually get to give us a system that will be able to make this particular process easier when it comes to deductions and all that. Now, the controversial deal cancellation leaves Shah hurt. Now, this is one of the issues that is happening in the country, and we've been able to see the president come out, try to defend what has been happening. We got to see, how do I call it? The government coming out to deny and say, we did not have a deal with Adani as far as Shah is concerned. But right now, there's this particular system that has not been working since its installation, and that is since we rolled out Shah, and that is the beginning of October, the 1st of October, and right now seems to have been cancelled, and we've reverted back to going to a local service provider here in the country. And I just want to read what the People Daily is actually reporting on that. Now, controversy continues to haunt President William Ruto's healthcare program after the Social Health Authority SHA abandoned the 104 billion technology infrastructure system and opted for services of a local firm at a much cheaper cost. Now, after the Adani-linked international firm contracted to set up an enterprise resource planning system failed, SHA has also partially resorted to an old system previously used by the defunct National Health Authority, National Health Insurance Fund as a stopgap measure. Now, in a move that is likely to draw more controversy and heated debate. SHA has consequently engaged the services of a local software company, Savannah Informatics, to operate the claims management system at an estimated 20 billion, almost 5 times lower than the initial cost. Now, questions have now emerged on why the government brought in an international firm dealing with artificial intelligence application that lacked any proven track record in the management of health system to undertake a contract that could have easily been executed by local firms. Reports indicate that SHA is apparently using Savannah Informatics systems after much touted a payroll ERP CAM claims management system, which was to put in place an elaborate electronic informatics system, failed to take off. This is about 2-3 months since the rollout of this particular, fund. Yet those questions that, were raised from the onset somehow dismissed, and right now we are getting ourselves into this particular position again. Let me start with Nurdin Kagai. Thank you so much for making time this particular morning.
Thank you for having me. Better late than never, eh?
Better late than never.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I had asked Stephen was the state of the nation from his, but I'm going to ask you that later on. Let's talk about this particular cancellation of the, a payroll and, this particular deal that now leaves SHA in limbo. What do you make of this issues to do with the contractual offer of foreign entities that come into the country? To some extent, we do not do due diligence whether they can actually deliver on what we're entrusting them to, and later on, cancel that to the expense of the common mwananchi. Let me start with that.
First and foremost, the people are the media, officially, because these documents were leaked on social media, and the government of the day was out saying there's nothing like Adani, nothing is happening. Remember Musalia Mudavadi came a couple of times before he actually accepted that, oh, JKIA, there's a plan for JKIA, and later on this. And it's sad because at the end of the day, any government is meant to do due diligence. In anything you do, even you when you want to buy a parcel of land, of course you do due diligence. So how would you want to go and spend taxpayers' money or enter into agreements that would leave the taxpayers in a hole, Because at the end of the day, you work at the benefit of the taxpayers, So it's sad, but the reality is that these were loopholes for some people to make money. That is the truth of the matter. And that is why we see right now they are still angry. The president cancelled these deals. He himself cancelled, saying that he has received information. But now, a week later, he turned on us and said that we are making noise, so he had to cancel. But ni makasiriko lakini wacha ongee mtoke. At the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that when it comes to issues to deal with the public, the best interest of the public has to be found or to be seen. So it's very sad to see this, because if at all there was a local company that could do this, what was the need of having that deal at 104 billion? And which system is worth 104 billion? Which system exactly was that? It actually shows you that there was going to be some corruption somewhere. And that is a side of reality. But as I rightfully told you, this is a different generation, it's a different time. And that is why some of them are at pains to understand why people are active, diligent, and critique them via social media. And it will continue to happen moving forward. And they'll just have to get on the boat and accept criticism, because the sad reality is that our political leaders love to be praised. But you see, you can't be praised for finishing us. And also, you can't be praised for doing your work. I was here the other week and I told you, we cannot congratulate a fish for swimming. If you were elected, your mandate is to work for the people. When you do something good, of course, that is your duty. You don't have to come and clap for you. But when you do something that is against us... Why do you
feel there's always a need, the government says, when you're actually pointing out something wrong, also point out the right things you're doing?
You see, if you do something right, we'll feel it. We will feel it. That is the truth of the matter. And as things are right now, the state of the, you asked the state of the nation. The state of the nation is as simple as a song by Morgan Heritage. There is nothing to smile about. As simple as that. Whether they like it or not, that is the state of the nation. People are hungry. People are losing jobs. The healthcare system is in shambles. Doctors are on strike, actually. There's 21 days supposed to lapse before they go on a strike. Education system, which was held, now turned into whatever they turned it into, is chaotic. Nobody knows which cluster you are in. And also, the cluster they put you in, sometimes you are put in a class that you can't even afford. So that is the state of the nation. But when you ask them that, wanakwambia bei ya unga imeshuka. So bei ya unga will pay your health care, will it pay your school fees. So that is the reality of the state of the nation. And when you tell them that, they say you are anti-government. Nobody's anti-government. We're just pro-good governance, pro-constitutionalism, and pro-accountability.
We will be coming into that because we want to get deeper into the criticism that has been happening in the country as far as the leadership of this government is concerned, and also some rhetorics that have been coming from the head of state on those that are actually criticizing his policies and actually his government. Let me come to you, Stephen. Your take on the issue to do with the cancellation, or rather the controversial deal cancellation, which is now leaving SHA, hot at the moment.
One of the running things I will speak about the whole of this morning is the issue of lack of trust and the trust deficit that is existent in this republic concerning the actions of government. no one has an issue with you attempting to create a universal healthcare. No problem. Okay. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to be able to go to hospital, use a public healthcare system and be able to be treated and pay the most minimal amount they can be able to pay, or pay nothing at all, and go home and feel like they've been taken care of. But however, it's the manner in which you introduce this, it's the manner in which not only do you introduce it, but actually get the buy-in from the people who you're trying to create this policy for, or this system for. And finally, how you go about making sure that everything that is concerned with executing this particular system that you're talking about, because you're moving from something that was seemingly working, this is NHIF, into something new that you say is better, revamped, it is what was envisioned for the future by previous administrations, fine. And then when it comes to execution, it's all shambolic. Okay. The worst thing about it is when everyone starts asking questions, how are these things being put together? Who are the people putting these things together? Is the government involved, or is profiteers who are coming from different countries? Then we find out there are people from abroad. There are people sitting in State House who are actually shareholders in the company that is supposed to be working to help the nation in terms of payments of monies that are going to hospitals. And what is the end result? Kenyans going to hospitals, systems are failing, they are unable to get the healthcare they need, people die while waiting for medical care. I can tell you the issue then becomes, it's not about what you had envisioned as a leader for this nation. Okay. It is what is coming out in the form of execution. And Kenyans are in pain. And let's not joke about healthcare. Healthcare is everything. In life, it's either you're living or you're dying. There cannot be two things about it. So the moment you notice that the healthcare system, which is meant to be the thing that preserves the actual reason why somebody wakes up in the morning is to stay alive, and then suddenly you're robbing them of that, you're creating a problem that you cannot be able to fix by standing on top of rooftops of a car trying to say that Kenya is in the right direction. No, you have to fix what's the problem. And let me tell you, without fear or doubt, if we do not fix our healthcare system, this government, this administration should not imagine that it is tribalism that will kick them out in 2027. It should not imagine it is Gen Z which will kick them out. It is people who will say, if we are going to stay alive, this government must go. Okay. So it's important to fix this healthcare issue and fix it as soon as possible. Okay. If that's not the one thing that the president will talk about in Jamhuri Day celebrations, I do not see what else he's going to be talking about, because Kenyans are dying and they do not want to die.
Well, the president has been talking in the past few days, and maybe just you get to stress on what he's been talking about, and that is calling out those who are criticizing the government. But that's beside the point. Listen, another story making headlines on the newspapers is Ruto and Uhuru talks jolt politics, and this is, of course, is on the Standard, the Nation, and the Nation and the People Daily, of course, were reporting on issues to do with the cancellation of the Shah Adani deal, or a payroll deal. And right now we are taking a look at the Standard. Ruto and Uhuru talks jolt politics. A surprise meeting between President Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, two bigwigs with long history together, sends politics into a spin and raises questions on shape of broad-based government, political fate of Mount Kenya, and Azimio's future. Story on page 6 and 7. Let me start with you, Nudin. What does the future look like politically after this particular meeting? Of course, we have the allies, President Uhuru Kenyatta's, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's ally saying, by the way, we are not in government, and that particular meeting was just, a courtesy call, that it's normal.
First and foremost, I'm not too surprised with the visit or them having a sit down, because if you read Linjiru's book, he'll tell you that Uhuru, he names them, Uhuru, Ruto, Raila, Kalonzo, Musalia are what you call political cousins. He says when you go to hunt with a jackal, the house of dogs, be careful, because when their interest is threatened, they will turn against you. So all these are children of KANU. These are Moi's children, most of them, and some of them, their father, like Raila, was a founding member of KANU. So it's not surprising. With politicians, you can't be too surprised, because I know so long as their interests align, there's nothing to fight about. Okay. But what my take home is that immediately the meeting ended, they both released statements, and their statements were kind of contradictory. So that tells you someone doesn't want to be misinterpreted somewhere. You know, we all know who. But we wait to see what this brings, because at the end of the day, someone is playing chess and the other is going to play checkers. And we wait to see what they do. But the sad reality is that this is the political class, you know. They never disagree on our issues. They disagree on their interests.
How important was that particular meeting, though?
Well, you see, these things was meant to happen when they took office. But you see, this is a government that after immediately they took office were a bit too proud. They were trying to show him, by the way, we won without you, we were in charge. And you remember how they took office and they were being sworn in. The words that were said at the stadium that day, which were unnecessary, if you ask me. But at the end of the day, he has gotten to a point where now he wants to consolidate power. You see, the president feels as if the former president really never acknowledged him. It was some sort of acknowledgement that I don't understand the reason why. But I think now maybe he feels the fact that he's with Raila, courtesy of the fact that they have a common interest, which is AUC, which we wait to see if Raila fails the AUC, what happens to that bromance? What happens to those figures from ODM known as experts who now lash at and tell us how we know nothing? What happens to that bromance? Because their interest is AUC. If he fails in there, then we see what happens moving forward. That's why I'm telling you, their meeting and the political class will always agree when their interests are catered for. You know, there's something called broad-based right now, and that is why they're angry at us when we ask them questions. Because you know, when you're in a table and you're eating, you don't like noise. So table manners means you eat without noise, and that is why you see they feel angry whenever we critique. So at the end of the day, this is more or less personal. I don't think that visit to Uhuru will reduce the cost of living, will create employment, whether that visit to Uhuru will actually sort out our national debt, our healthcare issues, whether interns will be paid as per their CBA, whether the other issues will be sorted.
Maybe the issue to do with IBC will actually be resolved.
But you see, you don't need to visit Uhuru for IBC to be there.
All right. Stephen, what does this make of President William Ruto? Was it a needed visit to go visit Uhuru? And how does this now get to change the political landscape in the country moving forward as we, edge closer to 2027, considering the fact that the former president comes from a region that right now, as we speak, seems to be a little bit divided politically?
Well, Brian, I think the biggest tragedy that I'm seeing in this play of Kenyan politics is that people imagine you can do politics in the old way, the business as usual. And what we saw on Monday, it was just business as usual. It's somebody sitting down and saying, well, I did not need Uhuru Kenyatta or Raila Odinga to become president. Now I'm seeming to lose certain elements that I thought I had. So why don't I bring these people that I never needed in the first place into government, take care of their little interests here and there. I have now a deputy who has no interest in asking for anything beyond the fact that he just wants to sit in office as my deputy. And I can now try and create this political game to appease the political alliances that might unite in some shape or form against my ability to be re-elected in 2027. So clearly what we are only seeing here is that the President William Ruto is playing every single game that he believes will make him have an easier time winning the 2027 election. So that visit has nothing, and I repeat, has nothing to do with what are the common ills that are affecting Kenyans. Now, that's Ruto's view. The president, former president Uhuru Kenyatta, took that time, according to his statement, which was completely separate from what the State House released about what was the content of the meeting. And he said that he took that time to discuss with William Ruto about the ills that are affecting the nation and the need for consultation and inclusivity in the running of government affairs. I mean, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who came up with all these BBI and handshake governments and everything. But I can bet you, Bwana Brian, that discussion had everything to do with everything that concerns the Kenyatta family personally, because there's no other person who has terrorized the Kenyatta family. Even Moi did not touch the Kenyatta family like the way the Ruto government touched the Kenyatta family. And I believe that was a meeting in which people went asking for forgiveness, making promises and assurances about the future. and making sure that going forward, nobody will either steal a cow, a goat, or anything else from another, and there will be no cars with the drone, and there will be no children who will end up being harassed, targeted by DCI, and their homes broken into. These are the conversations that would most likely have happened. So the quotient of that conversation that I believe had Kenyans in interest at heart in that particular meeting, I think was only 10%. The rest was about how do I survive in 2027, and how do I make sure as you retire, you're retiring as a comfortable old man together with our First Lady, Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Those are the interests that were there in that meeting.
Between the two statements that came out, which one do you trust?
With all honesty, and I only trust what former President Uhuru Kenyatta said, but I am not taking that to the bank as well. It is a much better depiction.
All right. We are taking a break here on New Dawn. We'll be back in a few. We continue our conversation. The question you're asking this particular morning, do you feel that the country is headed in the right direction as far as democracy and leadership is concerned? Do you feel that the country is headed in the right direction as far as democracy and leadership is concerned? Of course, we're taking stock, the state of the nation. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at how the president has been responding to criticism, especially coming from Kenyans, to his leadership style in the country.
The biggest reggae and rhythm show ever on Kenyan television.
You have a ganja man and you wanna forget. Well, I'm not no girl.
Juggle